Hello, good afternoon, and thank you for joining today's stakeholder conference call. We'll go ahead and get started. My name is Alan Tart, and I'm the Deputy Director of the Office of Partnerships in FDA's Office of Regulatory Affairs. And I'm also the co-business lead for the Integrated Food Safety System Regulatory and Laboratory Training System project team. And I'll be referring to that as RLTS for short. You know how we like our acronyms. I will serve as the moderator for today's call, and I'll be assisted by the RLTS project manager, Natalie Hussey. The rest of the IFSS RLTS steering committee members have joined me today to discuss a very exciting initiative underway. We have a strategic plan that we've developed to design and implement a more optimal, sustainable training system that leverages the expertise and resources of all IFSS partners to expand training capacity and availability for both regulators and laboratorians, and really to promote a one integrated workforce model, which we all know is a key objective of an efficient and effective IFSS. We've scheduled this call for an hour and a half, and the first portion of the call will be dedicated to opening remarks by FDA's new Deputy Commissioner for Human Foods, Mr. Jim Jones. And that will be followed by a short video introduction of the RLTS. And then following the video, I will introduce the esteemed members of the RLTS Steering Committee. And that will be followed by an interactive discussion with them to learn more about the RLTS and its expected outcomes and results. We will also provide an update on the National Curriculum Standard, which, those of us who have been around a while know that this has been in the works for many years. It's a national competency standard for human and animal food regulatory and laboratory professionals. I'm happy to say that we'll be finishing those standards up very soon, and we'll learn more about that in a few minutes. More importantly, we'll discuss what's in it for you and how you can get involved. As you would expect, we do need you, and so you can consider this a call to action. Throughout the call, we'll be talking to you about how you can get involved in this important initiative. After the panel discussion, we'll take questions from our callers during the Q&A session. And we'll end with some closing remarks. There's no need for you to wait for the Q&A to ask your questions. However, please feel free at any time to type your questions in the Q&A feature at the bottom of the screen. We just ask that you identify yourself as well as the organization you're with when you ask your question. So at this time, I'm very honored to turn the call over to FDA's Deputy Commissioner for Human Foods, Mr. Jim Jones, with some opening remarks. Jim? You may be on mute.
Thanks, Alan. You'd think I'd have it figured out by now how to unmute myself, but good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are. I am pleased to kick off today's call to celebrate the launch of the RLTS strategic plan. Today's event culminates over 2 years of sustained leadership and collaboration by over 30 representatives from our SLTT Regulatory and Laboratory Association partners, the Partnership for Food Protection, and FDA's Human and Animal Foods program. This is a tremendous effort undertaken by all to create a unified vision for training a highly competent regulatory and laboratory workforce in the integrated food safety system. This type of collaboration was baked into the Food Safety Modernization Act. We simply cannot achieve our collective public health mission of ensuring a safer human and animal food supply without working together as one integrated workforce. And in the future, under the Human Foods Program, the partnerships forged between federal and SLTT agencies, as well as academic, foreign, industry, and consumer stakeholders, will be critical in the work that lays ahead. FDA is committed to ensuring our staff and the SLTT regulatory and laboratory professionals have access to the same high-quality training. This enables the FDA and states with comparable regulatory public health systems to rely on coordinate with, and leverage one another's work, data, and actions. As we gear up for the implementation phase, I want to take the opportunity to thank the training officers, instructional designers, managers, and other staff of ORA's Office of Training, Education, and Development, or OTED, for their dedication over the past few decades in ensuring the IFSS workforce had the training they need. I know this team has long envisioned a collaboratively governed training system to expand national regulatory and laboratory training capacity and availability, and we simply could not have made it to this kickoff without their hard work. The success of the RLTS depends on OTED continuing to deliver training to FDA and SLTT partners. This commitment is being carried forward by Brooke Mulligan, the current acting director of OTED. As we stand up the RLTS over the next few years, we'll be able to expand training capacity and availability beyond what OTED can do alone. This will ensure IFSS training needs are met. To sustain this training, we are leveraging the resources across IFSS partners and establishing a private-public partnership that puts into place a shared financial responsibility for training. In the private-public partnership model, the engagement of all stakeholders in food safety, including our industry partners, will help ensure that all reap the benefits of the expanded training capacity, options, and flexibility that the RLTS will provide. Before I turn it back over to Alan, I want to thank the members of the RLTS project team, including the FDA and association stakeholder groups, many of whom you will hear from today, for their leadership and innovation in designing and implementing a training system that will meet the growing needs of the IFSS's integrated workforce, both now and in the future. This is truly remarkable work. Back to you, Alan.
Thanks so much, Jim. Now we're going to watch a video to introduce you to the RLTS. And in this video, we're going to cover why we are reimagining the training system, supporting the integrated food safety system. We're also going to review the RLTS strategic plan, its expected outcomes, and the proposed governance structure to oversee the RLTS. And at this time, I'll turn it over to Gideon, who will start the video.
Good day, everyone, and welcome to an introduction to the Regulatory and Laboratory Training System, RLTS. I'm Connie Bowman, your host for this video. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration and its Integrated Food Safety System, IFSS, partners are excited to launch a 5-year IFSS-wide Regulatory and Laboratory Training System strategic plan, grounded on a set of validated competencies and national standards for course content, design, delivery, and equivalency determinations. The reimagined Regulatory and Laboratory Training System, or RLTS for short, will revolutionize how training is administered in the United States. So what is an integrated food safety system? An IFSS involves the implementation of seamless partnerships and operations among federal, state, local, territorial, and tribal regulatory agencies and laboratories, as well as academic, foreign, industry, and consumer stakeholders to achieve a safer human and animal food supply. The foundation of an IFSS is a highly competent, integrated workforce composed of thousands of federal and SLTT regulatory and laboratory professionals, including but not limited to FDA consumer safety officers, compliance officers, and laboratory analysts, SLTT food safety inspectors, environmental health specialists, and laboratorians, and other regulatory, laboratory, epidemiology, and food emergency response professionals. These public health officials oversee the safety of manufactured human food, produce, eggs, retail food, grade A milk, and other dairy, molluscan shellfish, and animal food. The competencies required of this workforce are both vast and diverse. FDA's Office of Regulatory Affairs Office of Training, Education and Development, also known as OTED, offers free training to ensure the IFSS workforce has the job-specific knowledge, skills, and abilities to apply consistent investigatory and laboratory practices, stay abreast of and adopt current regulations and standards, and perform comparable work at all levels to ensure a safe and secure human and animal food supply. Let's hear from OTED's director, Pat Alcock, to learn more about the RLTS and why we are redesigning it in the strategic plan.
Thank you, Connie. The reason we are redesigning the RLTS is due to the sheer size, diversity, and the geographically dispersed nature of our workforce. It is essential to have a variety of open market training organizations in addition to the FDA that can meet the needs of the workforce. Using competencies established by the IFSS will create a uniform training standard that leverages the knowledge, skills, and expertise of all IFSS partners, regardless of their affiliation. Accessing a competency-based RLTS will continue collaboration with regulatory and laboratory partners, academia, and industry to share in the responsibility to design and deliver training to all IFSS partners, thereby increasing the access and availability of critical public health training without having to rely solely on the FDA. OTED is excited to be collaborating with our IFSS partners to stand up a truly integrated approach to training. Stay tuned to the end of the video to find out how you can get involved.
Thank you, Pat. So, how was the strategic plan developed, and how will it be used by the FDA and its partners to create a more sustainable RLTS? The FDA, 9 of its regulatory association partners, and the Partnership for Food Protection collaborated for over a year and a half to develop the strategic plan, which was finalized in the summer of 2023. In developing the strategic plan, the project team solicited feedback from FDA and SLTT inspection and laboratory managers and staff, associations, and sea and land-grant universities to gain insights into what is working and not working. This will help us identify barriers and solutions for achieving a desired future state RLTS. This feedback was used to create a strategic plan with 5 goals. The strategic plan capitalizes on what is already working well and addresses perceived gaps to optimize training in the future. 3 of the goals relate to course content, design, and delivery to ensure training meets the needs of the learner. Goals 4 and 5 are overarching and outline a need for a national governance of the RLTS and collaboration across IFSS partners to ensure training is consistent, effective, and of high quality. The strategic plan and companion implementation plan will guide the design and implementation of an optimal, sustainable, integrated RLTS that advances domestic mutual reliance and supports a one integrated workforce model by including flexible and adaptable learning tools that incorporate advancements in instructional design, adult learning theories, and technology to ensure effective learning and knowledge transfer. Ensuring course content is kept current and addresses emerging training needs. Standardizing job-specific competency, also known as National Curriculum Standards, to ensure the consistency of IFSS regulatory and laboratory partner training. Maximizing training capacity and access to meet the current and forecasted needs of IFSS regulatory and laboratory partners. Leveraging opportunities for IFSS regulatory, association, academia, and industry partners to share in the responsibility of providing training. This includes establishing a system for determining partner course equivalency, as well as expanding OTED's independent course delivery, ICD, and Train the Trainer, TTT, programs. And lastly, by ensuring long-term sustainment of proficiency and knowledge to provide effective and consistent application of competencies across IFSS regulatory and laboratory partners. So, what developments can you expect to see in fiscal years 2024 through 2025 to design and implement the reimagined RLTS? In fiscal year 2024, the FDA will be working in collaboration with its IFSS partners to lay the groundwork for the reimagined RLTS. This includes building out the national curriculum standards for regulatory and laboratory professionals, in collaboration with the International Food Protection Training Institute, IFPTI, the Partnership for Food Protection, PFP, the Association of Food and Drug Officials, AFDO, the Association for Public Health Laboratories, APHL, and the National Environmental Health Association, NEHA. Let's hear from one of those partners now. Sherry Shea is the director of APHL's Food Safety Programs and member of the RLTS Steering Committee. Sherry, what are the national curriculum standards and how will they be used to ensure a competent regulatory and laboratory workforce in the IFSS?
APHL and the partners you've mentioned are working in parallel to build two NCS frameworks, one for food regulators and one for laboratory scientists. These career-spanning frameworks are built upon accepted job skills known as validated competencies. In other words, what a trained food safety professional should know and be able to do. The frameworks also include measures to assess what an individual has learned, either for self-evaluation or perhaps to share with a supervisor. Full implementation of the NCS assures a competent workforce doing comparable work across jurisdictions, which is really the basis of our integrated food safety system. APHL sees clear benefits in the NCS framework, and that they represent the knowledge, skills, and abilities needed for anyone to have successful job performance. They help identify knowledge gaps where they might exist, and they create focused career paths that will help improve one's job skills. And importantly, the NCS frameworks encourage collaboration among food safety partners. The NCS is foundational to the regulatory and laboratory training system, and implementing both will be crucial to meeting workforce needs from entry level to senior management, especially as we see more and more food safety professionals leave the field. APHL intends to finish our NCS work early in 2024, and we are happy to be a member of the RLTS Steering Committee.
Thank you, Sherry. What else can you expect in fiscal year 2024? A collaboratively governed and administered RLTS governance structure will be stood up to include a steering committee, a National Coordination Center, NCC, and various advisory committees. The advisory committees will be responsible for recommending national standards and policies for course content, design, delivery, and equivalency determinations. Once operational, the NCC will provide day-to-day oversight of the RLTS, including setting up a triage review process for determining equivalency between partner courses and credentialing programs. By now, you likely have an idea of the expected outcomes and benefits of the reimagined RLTS. But let's hear some thoughts from another RLTS Steering Committee member. Steve Mandernack is the Executive Director of the Association of Food and Drug Officials. Steve was also one of the architects of the RLTS strategic plan. Steve, what do you see as the benefits of implementing the reimagined RLTS?
So the concept of RLTS creates a learning path for regulatories and laboratory professionals that will allow them to essentially have for their career and what they're doing what they need to essentially demonstrate as competencies. The first benefit is it allows for maximal flexibility for the programs and the learner. There are lots of different options on how you get the information you need. The second thing is it really shows that our folks are indeed competent to do their work. One of the questions we always get asked by stakeholders is, do the people really know what they need to know to be effective regulators? Another advantage of this system will be that it will allow for both regulators and laboratorians and industry to train together and use the same curriculums and courses across them. Oftentimes they are doing the very similar things, but we're using different courses for everyone. Using the same course and having people in the same classroom often makes it a more robust learning experience.
Thank you, Steve. As you can see, our association partners share in FDA's excitement about the RLTS and the opportunities it will afford to all IFSS partners. So, I'm sure you're wondering by now how you can get involved. Well, we need you. Standing up the reimagined RLTS will require the collaborative efforts of all IFSS partners. We need human and animal food regulatory and laboratory subject matter experts to complete the build-out and validation of the NCS. We also need adult learning experts, training specialists, and instructional design SMEs to serve on advisory committees to develop national course content, design, delivery, and equivalency determination standards and policies. We hope you have found this video helpful in understanding the exciting work underway to ensure the IFSS workforce has the job-specific knowledge, skills, and abilities to ensure a safe and secure human and animal food supply. Please visit our website to learn more about the RLTS and how you can get involved. Thank you for listening.
Okay, everyone, I hope you enjoyed the video. At this time, I would like to introduce the members of the RLTS Steering Committee, and I'll be introducing them in the order that they will appear in the panel. And I'll start with the Food and Drug Administration. Representing the FDA, we have Lonnie Nunemaker and Daniel Osei, both with OTED and myself. Representing the International Food Protection Training Institute, IFPTI, which is an advisor to the steering committee, we have Jerry Watala and Dr. Craig Camel. Representing the Partnership for Food Protection, we have Angela Montalbano. Representing the Association of State Departments of Agriculture, NASDA, we have Antonia Giuliano. Representing the Association of State and Territorial Health Officials, ASTO, we have Lori Lemaster. Representing the Association of Food and Drug Officials, AFDO, Stephen Mandernack, who did an awesome job in that video. Thank you, Steve. Representing the Association of Public Health Laboratories, Sherry Shea, also did a great job in the video. Thank you. Oscars for both of you. Representing the Association of American Feed Control Officials, AFCO, George Ferguson. Also representing the National Association of County and City Health Officials, Dr. Chelsea Gridley Smith. Representing the National Environmental Health Association, Rance Baker. Representing the Conference for Food Protection, CFP, Christine Silvas. Representing the Interstate Shellfish Sanitation Conference, Keith Skiles. And representing the National Conference on Interstate Milk Shipments, Casey McHugh. Representing the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, we have Sherry McGarry and Dr. Gwen Biggerstaff. Representing the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Food Safety Inspection Service, FSIS, we have Dr. Hala Bess-Young and Jennifer Webb. And last but not least, representing Eagle Hill Consulting, also advising the RLTS Steering Committee, we have Lori Weinstein and Salome Shakibai. So I'm going to start asking questions, and I'm going to start with you, Daniel. OTED has provided the bulk of human and animal food training out there, pretty much, for the IFSS since for the past several decades. And on behalf of the entire IFSS, I want to thank you and your staff for shouldering the tremendous responsibility, which has only gotten more difficult following the enactment of FSMA. So with that in mind, I want to ask a question that's likely on many people's minds. Will OTED continue to provide training in FY25 and beyond, even as we're standing up the RLTS?
Well, Alan, on behalf of OTED and our training partners, I wanted to say thank you for the acknowledgement. It really means a lot. You won't find a more passionate, caring, and more committed staff than the folks at OTED when it comes to public health training. Now, on to your first question, and thanks you for starting off with an easy one. As Deputy Commissioner Jones pointed out in his opening remarks, OTED will continue delivering the same high-quality training we provide now in FY25 and beyond. The RLTS by no means is intended to replace OTED. In fact, if I can be quite honest, OTED is dedicated to supporting our state partnerships and collaborations by continuing to deliver the same training we provide now. Now, I do want to highlight some of the training that is designed and delivered as part of the RLTS will be additive, and they'll provide additional options such as different modalities and more course offerings. This is more an effective effort than any one organization such as OTED can provide right now.
All right, Daniel, thank you. I know that one of the challenges, especially for a lot of the commodities that are part of the IFSS, has been having the training capacity and availability to get everyone trained up. So that's really exciting news. I have a follow-up question for you. What can callers expect to happen in the next few years as the RLTS rolls out?
Well, that's a good question. And as you're aware, we're at the beginning stages of opening or rolling out the RLTS. I think this is probably a good time to remind everyone that standing up the RLTS, it's going to be a gradual process. This summer, we hope to finalize a charter for the RLTS steering committee. We also are looking to finalize the national standards that will ensure consistency and quality of training in the RLTS. Now, we expect to stand up the National Coordination Center, or the NCC as we like to call it, by the summer of 2025. Stakeholders likely won't see the benefit of extra training capacity until NCC is actually stood up. But once the NCC is actually stood up, work on reviewing partner courses for alignment with the RLTS standards will commence. So that won't happen until, I want to say, fall of 2025. But as I mentioned earlier, OTED will continue providing training to meet the need of everyone.
Gotcha. Well, fall of 2025 is going to be here before we know it. And that's really exciting news about the increased training capacity and availability that the RLTS will provide. And I can see how the RLTS is going to provide different options for partners and the FDA to take training and other learning opportunities. I want to point that out. It's not just training. It can be other learning opportunities, learning resources in a manner and at a time that works best for them. So that's a great thing. I'm going to ask the $1 million question, and I don't mean to give you a zinger out of the gate, but why in the world would SLTT officials go elsewhere for training when they can get the training now for free from OTED?
Wow, and that's a good question, and I guess I'm going to retract my response from the first one by giving me the easy question. I see it's getting progressively harder, but as you're aware, the goal under a fully operational RLTS is to have other organizations, whether it's academia, industry, or third-party organizations, deliver the national curriculum standard training for ORA and our SLTT partners. If I can be quite frank with you, the current system where SLTT and ORA rely on us and FDA training services, it's no longer sustainable. The old model worked when there were a limited number of state contracts, but as the need for more contracts and grants and standards for our SLTT partners increase, a new process has to be implemented. Now, I want to reiterate that on the behalf of Acting OTED Director Brooke Mulliken and I, OTED is fully committed to providing a continued training for FDA and our SLTT partners, but it's high time that effort becomes a shared responsibility, and I believe that the RLTS will make that happen.
Awesome. And as always, thank you for the partnership that we have with OTED. You all are amazing. The last question I have for you, Daniel, and then we're going to move on to Jerry at IFPTI. So Jerry, be prepared. Many callers lead SLTT programs that are enrolled in one or more regulatory program standards, or as you mentioned before, they have a contract with the FDA to perform inspections or other important work on our behalf. And Standard 2 and all of the standards programs requires that SLTT inspectors have the competencies to do the work that they've been assigned. Also, even the state contract statements of work currently include specific OTED course requirements.
Right.
The question to you is, for purposes of contract work and conformance with Standard 2 of the regulatory program standards, will FDA accept courses that are delivered by groups other than FDA?
Well, Alan, as you're aware, one of the strategic principles of the RLTS is to standardize job-specific competencies to ensure the consistency of training, right? So this is going to be accomplished by building out the national curriculum standard, and that'll create a training framework that can be applied across the system. Once an organization's training course has been deemed to have met the competency standard within NCS, then yes, FDA would accept it. This will not only include other courses to be included as prereqs for courses, but also for program standard and audit purposes as well. So the goal is to have an open market of training providers from SLTT and ORA, and that they can select for any kind of required or needed training.
Excellent. For all the program managers out there, I know that will be awesome to have a place where you can go and see other courses besides the ones that FDA delivers that would meet your needs to ensure that your staff have the competencies to do the work that they've been assigned. That's really good stuff. So switching gears here, I would like to, before I switch to IFPT, I would like to add that FDA will, in fact, continue to provide funding to support our partners' attendance to training delivered by FDA or any other partners in the RLTS. And of course, that's subject, of course, to availability of funding, but I just wanted to kind of put that out there. So switching gears, I want to go to IFPTI now. And I'll start with Jerry. Jerry, Connie and Sherry mentioned in the video, IFPTI has been, really the architect of the national curriculum standards since day one. And I mentioned before, that's been a long time coming, almost a decade. And I know you're as excited as I am to see this day finally come. Could you talk more about the history of the national curriculum standard, who all has been involved to date, and in particular, could you talk about how the NCS competencies and behavioral anchors can be used by an assessor to measure an individual's level of competency?
Well, sure, Alan. It's really hard to believe, really, that the NCS has been around now since 14 years. It's been started. Of course, we took a little bit of time off during COVID, but it's been going on for a while. Keep in mind, and if you remember, Sherry on the video talked about NCS. And when we talk about NCS, we're throwing another acronym at you, of course. But the National Curriculum Standards, keep in mind there's both the regulatory curriculum standards and the laboratory curriculum standards. There was once the animal food standards were standalone at one point. Those have been integrated into the regulatory standards now. And I'm sure many on the call today have participated on one of the many work groups that we've had over the years here to build out the NCS. So hopefully it's familiar to many of you, and it will become more familiar to all of you, I'm sure. The NCS itself, though, is really the foundation of the training system. So the new currency, if you will, of the system will be competencies. So throughout our careers, we've all gained competencies, right? Which are the knowledge, skills, abilities, or attitudes that we all need to do our jobs. And we've typically attained them through our education, through training courses like the FDA courses we've all taken, and through job experience. But what we haven't had until now is a framework or a roadmap of all the competencies needed for the jobs in our professions. So the NCS provides that roadmap, but it also provides a lot more. Not only does it contain layers of the detailed competencies that can guide an individual on the journey through their career, but it also contains what are called behavioral anchors. And behavioral anchors are ways that someone can gauge their level of proficiency or their level of performance compared to others doing the same job. One of the applications of the NCS is to be able to align the competencies that are acquired by an individual in different ways and map those to the standards. And what this means is that we no longer have to base evidence that someone has gained certain competencies solely on whether they took a certain FDA course. Now we can assess any resource against the NCS competencies, and those can be an acceptable way to demonstrate attainment. So, for example, you can now have a course that an association provides, or a private provider even, or a university, or maybe it's not a course, maybe it's a standardized observer assessing performance in the field, then signing off on that, or a supervisor signing off that their employees have attained certain competencies. Maybe it's a 5-minute video. Maybe it's even taking an exam or testing out of a course. So the bottom line is there will be multiple options.
Wow, that's exciting stuff. I'm sure many folks would like to know more about the NCS, and I understand that IFPTI is planning to host a webinar in the next couple of months. Is that right?
Yep, we'll put out an announcement for that, but we'll put out a webinar for those of you who really want to kind of dig into the weeds and understand it a lot more. We'll let you know about that webinar.
Excellent. Switching gears, Jerry, I have just one more question for you, and then I'm going to go on to Craig. How do you envision the National Coordination Center working in providing a central hub of training courses and other learning opportunities?
Mm-hmm. Well, so think of the National Coordination Center. It will be a public-private partnership. And so we'll have, engagement from a lot of different stakeholders. But if you think about that model, it will ensure that all stakeholders have some kind of a role in providing service to the communities that they serve. So think again that it's like an open market of training resources. And by having that open market, you'll have more resources, you'll have an increased availability and access to for all regulatory officials and maybe even people in industry. The key is that this creates a more flexible model for an individual to attain and demonstrate their competencies. Stakeholders like a lot of the associations we have here on the call today can submit resources to the National Coordination Center, then have them mapped to the NCS. So then they can say that, yeah, these resources meet certain competencies for those looking to attain those certain competencies. So someone in the field who uses that resource can easily demonstrate that. But the NCC, or the National Coordination Center, will retain the evidence that the individuals that have attained those, they'll kind of be the record keeper. So an individual can keep track of the progress throughout their career. And then we're calling this a career spanning record. We're calling that an individual competency profile.
Got you. So if an inspector is at a certain, let's say a county health inspector is, at 10 years in one county and moves over to the next county, there'll be a one-stop shop to be able to know that person's competencies already.
Right. Yeah, it'll be transportable. Even if you go, let's say you're a food inspector and you become a dairy inspector, or you become a laboratorian, you'll be able to still have your profile kind of follow you wherever you go.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. So thank you, Jerry. Switching gears to Craig now. Craig, Steve mentioned in the video that the RLTS will provide defined learning paths for our regulatory and laboratory staff. Can you talk more about this and how this will be a benefit in the integrated food safety system?
Sure, Ellen. So a learning path really is a structured sequence of identified learning experiences, resources, and activities that help people acquire the knowledge, skills, and abilities, such as the competencies and the behavioral anchors in the National Curriculum Standard. So looking at the framework that you're looking at right now, if you look in the middle, where there's the grade A milk, for example, a learning path would take someone through the bottom competencies into the green, the food foundations, into the more salmon colored, and looking at those competencies, and then get to that grade A milk. So it's really helping structure that learning and getting to those competencies.
Got you. And I know we've talked so far about, the fact that the NCS, there's two frameworks, and we're looking to get those finished up. Can you share with us the current status of those two frameworks for regulatory professionals?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, we're looking at the food and feed framework right now. We are on track to have this finished by June. We have a couple more in-person workshops to build them out, and then we'll have to validate those competencies through surveys. And then if you can switch to the lab framework, I think we have, yep, there we go. So basically, this is completely built out. We have all the competencies and behavioral anchors built out. Been a long time in coming. But thank you for APHL and providing SMEs and the work groups for that. We do have some validation studies still in the works, but again, this will be completed by the end of June.
Outstanding, outstanding. I know that's exciting news for a lot of people out there. And those of you who have been helping over the years to map out those competencies, thank you. And for those of you who are yet to volunteer, we'll be talking a little later about how you can volunteer. Actually, we're going to do it right now, how you can help us validate those competencies. So thanks again, Craig. And I'm moving on to Angela. Angela, I know the Partnership for Food Protection Training and Credentialing Work Group, which you co-chair, has really been at the forefront of developing standard curricula and certification programs with IFPTI over the years, and has been especially helpful in facilitating the validation of the competencies in the frameworks. Jerry also mentioned that we need help in validating the competencies in the framework, and so I'm sure folks are wanting to know how they can get involved. So can you describe more about the help that's needed?
Sure, Alan, and thank you very much. I would like to quickly recognize the PFP training workgroup members and let you all know that we are a team of truly dedicated, truly passionate state and local, federal, tribal, territorial, academia, and association representatives. We have been working on the NCS for many, many years now, as it has been already discussed. But to answer your question about what type of help is needed, the PFP training workgroup announces validation surveys on the PFP website. So we need some assistance, go to the PFP website, and they're always on there. But what we are always seeking are experienced professionals to review the relevance of the competencies that have been developed within each of the content areas. So we also need people to serve on focus groups and advisory committees for the NCC.
Got you. And you mentioned that you need experienced folks. What other qualifications would you be looking for?
So we're also seeking experienced and knowledgeable professionals within their field of program areas.
Got you. So if the competencies for retail food in the framework, we need folks who have experience in retail food protection.
Correct.
Got you. All right. And what would be the time commitment? Because I know folks are very busy right now.
Yeah, well, if you're anyone like myself that says yes to everything, I would caution no. So that's not funny, right? Everyone on this phone are yes people. So the time commitment, quite honestly, it really depends on the project that someone agrees to volunteer for. So like a validation survey, there are focus groups or committee work. For example, a validation survey, that might take about 10 to 15 minutes to complete, whereas a focus group, they're ad hoc and they're mostly one-time meetings, and they may require 2 to 4 hours. An advisory committee, they may be 2 hours every 3 months, which require a little more time from the volunteer. So, but the volunteer can always discuss any timing expectations prior to the commitment. We don't want you to join and then won't be successful in helping us with the volunteer work.
Got you. To only 20 minutes to validate the competencies in your field certainly isn't a lot of time, and I think that would be a huge help if you can even just help with that. Yes. The most important question of all: how can one sign up?
So announcements for the validation surveys are shared via association newsletters. So we have AFTO on the line, NEHA, IFPTI, PFP, FDA. And of course, Natalie will put into the chat box here the IFPTI website. So anyone that's interested in volunteering, please go to the website and we will have information on there for you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Angela.
Thank you, Alan.
Antonia, as our representative from NASDA, there's a question that I'm sure by now is on everyone's minds, especially those of us who've been around a while. The vision of something like the RLTS has really been on the table for over 20 years. So, but it never really seemed to get much traction. So my question to you is, what makes this time different, and why should state departments of agriculture get excited this time?
Oh, that's a great question, Alan. I think it's the people and the partnerships that make it different and exciting this time. And that collaboration between those people, I believe, has the power to transform our training system. And we talked a lot about the national curriculum standards over the past few minutes. So I think you can see that collaboration at work when you look at those standards and how those standards were developed with the expertise and experience that all the partners bring to the conversation, including many of the state departments of agriculture that NASDA represents.
Yeah, thank you so much, Antonia. Lori, I've got a similar question for you. You know, Antonia shared her thoughts on the RLTL's benefits for state departments of agriculture. And as our representative from ASTO, what benefits do you see the RLTS will have for state and territorial departments of health?
Thanks, Alan. You know, a lot of the benefits have already been discussed, I think, by Jerry and yourself and others on the call. You know, the main benefit, in my opinion, is the framework will better support our staff, no matter where they are in their career progression. They'll have a clear framework for improved practice within their field. And I especially appreciated Jerry's comment about providing the same support nationally, so that when we have staff that come and move from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, which happens often, we have a clear understanding of their competencies, and so do they. And that's our main, I think, as environmental health directors of programs across the nation, is to support our environmental health staff and to provide them with the best training and opportunities for a fulfilling career. You know, they're the face of public health out in all of our communities, and that's the least that we can do.
Absolutely.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Thank you, Lori. Steve, as you know, AFTO, and I'm sure all the other associations, actually, Lori just alluded to it, get feedback all the time from your members saying that we need to train new inspectors faster so they can conduct independent work. And I know that's a challenge for folks, especially with attrition being what it is. Could you talk more about why this is a priority as we reimagine the new IFSS training system?
Sure, Alan. I think that we just start with the basic point is we're going to have to assume that our government workers, our inspectors and investigators, will probably be with us a much shorter period of time. We have to be able to train them very quickly, get them on the ground much faster than probably in the past. We don't have the luxury of taking 3 years to get someone really proficient in manufactured foods like it often takes today. So we have to be faster. This allows us to use multiple sources for that training that needs to happen and have them all evaluated for equivalency, which is huge. So we might be able to do things very differently, find sources that are closer to home that we can more quickly access as we have new staff coming on board.
Gotcha. Okay. And I know AFTO is a key player in the Manufactured Food Program Regulatory Program Alliance, which is the body that really oversees the manufactured food regulatory program standards. How do you see Standard 2 in the MIFRIPs evolving as we stand up the RLTS?
Well, while Standard 2 does give topics versus actual courses, there is, of course, a supplement that gives some ideas on courses. I think this just really opens up the ability to use multiple different types of learning courses and events for those requirements under Standard 2. And it's really effective for all standards. It's not just manufactured food programs.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you, Steve. And great job on the video. Sherry, I have a question for you. Laboratory science is a critical component of the human and animal food regulatory programs, and ensuring that laboratorians have the competencies to do their work is an important objective in the RLTS. How important are workforce issues to APHL's membership right now?
Oh, I'm not sure I can emphasize enough the importance of workforce issues, Alan. In 2023 and into 2024, workforce issues continue to be the top priority for APHL members. And let me tell you why I know this. APHL hosts an orientation for new laboratory directors called Laboratory Leaders of Today. Each of the 2 recent cohorts prioritize workforce issues as the #1 priority and subject for their discussions out of all the other post-pandemic issues and concerns facing public health laboratories. On top of that, our 2022 workforce profiles survey showed that 42% of those scientists intended to leave their positions within 4 years. Wow. And that was 2 years ago. So workforce issues are critical, they are longstanding, and they will be with the laboratory system for a long time.
Wow, wow, wow. So how do you see the RLTS helping with this?
Well, first, we are strong believers in the idea of integrated training, the federal and state co-learning, if you will, that will be enhanced by the RLTS. And we are excited to build this system. The framework, though, that roadmap Jerry mentioned of career-spanning content areas and competency-aligned courses is already addressing laboratory workforce needs. In fact, this project was described to me by one member as the most useful work APHL is doing right now. As association staff, we will use the recently completed laboratory framework immediately, along with the recent APHL training needs assessment. So we will crosswalk those TNA results against the entry-level courses that are already available, and then prioritize the most important content to place into the framework going forward, so we can maximize training capacity and access. So thanks for your questions.
Nice, nice, nice. I love how we're not waiting. We're getting it done. That's good to hear, Sherry. Thank you. So George, as our representative from AFCO, we've heard feedback both internally and externally within the FDA that the training challenges that currently impacting the animal food programs are distinct from the capacity and availability issues that we talked about on the call. That have plagued human food regulatory programs over the many years. So how then will the RLTS benefit animal food regulatory programs? What's in it for them?
Thank you, Alan. And yes, the training challenges faced by animal food programs do appear to be distinctly different than those of human food. Most notably, it's the availability and access to a library of competency-based courses. So the regulatory scope of animal food programs is broad in that it covers multiple specialized areas and that go beyond the responsibilities delegated by FSMA. From BSE to rendering, manufacture and distribution of medicated feeds across a multitude of species, the demands placed on our inspection and compliance staff continue to grow every year. The RLTS will provide state animal food regulatory programs with a complete library of training opportunities, cover the full curriculum, the needs, and deliver them in a multitude of formats to include in-person, virtual-led, and autonomous, with the goal of meeting the unique learning style of each of our unique program members. One of the greatest benefits for state programs will be their ability to encourage both national training development firms as well as those regional or local developers with whom they may already have relationships to create training content that satisfies the national curriculum needs, but also those specific needs that are unique to states based on their regional challenges, facility types within their area, or their manufacturing demographic. Alan, we're excited to see the training vision becoming a reality.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you very much, George. So shifting to our retail association partners, Chelsea, as our representative from NACCHO, how might the reimagined RLTS impact local food regulators, including those within NACCHO's membership in local health departments?
Yeah, this is such a great question, Alan. And from the conversation that we've heard already, I think the biggest takeaway is flexibility. So NACCHO conducts a national profile assessment of our health departments every 3 years, the most recent one. And if I go back for as long as I've been at NACCHO, over 7-8 years now, the most common population-based programs and services that health departments provide include regulation of food service establishments and food safety education. So the question is better, what local health departments is this not going to touch? All health departments will be impacted by this. And as you know, Ellen, their local retail food regulators are often out in the field and they're wearing many hats. They need customized, accessible, updated, and groundbreaking training and education to meet the current and future demands of retail food safety. Flexibility is key. the RLTS will fulfill these needs. And as a representative of NACCHO, I'm really excited to be able to represent those local members in the steering committee. And I know you've alluded to a few of the opportunities for folks to engage. I'll remind any of our local health department staff and members online, please pay attention when we come to the conclusion of this Q&A section, because you're going to hear more information about how you can stay engaged and have your voice heard. And of course, as now you know, you have NACCHO as a rep on this steering committee. And so you can always filter those comments, concerns, questions up to us through my team at NACCHO, and we'll be happy to relay them to this group. So yeah, we're really excited and urging all of our members to stay involved.
Thank you so much, Chelsea, and thank you for the plug for volunteering. That's going to be so important. Rance, I have a question for you. One of the challenges that we've had with the current training system is really having a good grasp of the true training needs of IFSS partners versus training wants, which we know really we need to really know the needs of the partners to be able to map out a work plan, to schedule courses, etc., to be able to meet that need. This has been the case in all program areas, but especially for retail, with just a huge number of environmental health specialists and inspectors that we have out there. And I know that NEHA has been working with the FDA to design a new way to assess training needs. And we do hope to build on that tool in the RLTS. Could you talk a little bit about that tool that you all have been working on and the benefits?
Sure. Thanks, Alan. And similar to what Sherry has talked about and Steve has talked about the workforce changing, we are seeing that as well. That there's a large number of new workforce that are going to be coming in over the next several years, and we need to get them up to speed quickly there. With the maps that Jerry showed, that framework that's there is a lot of stuff on that framework. And so what we wanted to do was to look at, for one section of it, for retail food, we wanted to look at what how well that was mapping over to what the actual workforce needed. So we did a large needs assessment of the retail food community, and we looked at whether the curriculum with the competencies that are listed in the curriculum and mapped it over to what the workforce actually needed based on job requirements there. What we were able to do was build something like a bridge, and this tool that we have helps people get, let's say you're starting a new job, you're just coming into the environmental health workforce, the retail food regulatory workforce there, or you're deciding you want to move up in a career there. The knowledge you need is sometimes pretty far away there. And so what we've developed is a tool that can help build a bridge to get you over to that area there. What we found was that as we were looking at the gaps, was there are some cracks out there where people can fall through as they advance through their career because the trainings aren't necessarily out there. The cool thing about this is that we now know where to focus on that framework. With a lot of stuff on that framework there, we now know where to really focus to say, this is the low-hanging fruit. This is needed now. Go ahead and finish out the competencies on this one first, because what we're showing through the workforce is that there's a dire need to have this item out there for the workforce there. So it helps put that in place for us to say, here's a roadmap for us to use as we're building out the framework there. We've also found that we also have a lot of high marks out there as far as if somebody wants to advance through a career. We've got a really good system out there that can say, here are the competencies we need to put in front of you. Let's say you're just coming in. Let's say you're a regulatory agency and you've got a whole bunch of workforce that are just coming in. You need to get them to that 3-year level or that veteran level very quickly. There's now this tool now allows you to look at this. These are the things we need to put in front of them, and here's where we need to put in front of them. If you want to advance through your career, say I want to get into a supervisory position, we're able to see what those items are. So this we've worked really hard on in the retail area, but as you mentioned, this is useful across the National Curriculum Standard because we have those competencies built out for each of those areas there, and we're really looking forward to being able to put this tool into work in other areas.
Nice. It's really good to know that is a scalable tool to other commodity areas besides retail. question for you. I think you all were publishing a paper or have published a paper on this tool. Can you talk to us about where that publication may be or when it's coming out?
So we've actually had 2 papers published. The first one really just talked about building the tool itself and what it was that we did. The second paper just came out in the Journal of Environmental Health, our peer-reviewed publication, and it really is really looking at the workforce itself there. And there's some really key stuff in there about how we build equity within the system, whether or not it's gender equity or others that say, how do we make sure that we put all the right stuff in front of folks all the time? And then we've got 2 more papers coming out. We're at the mercy of the peer reviewers on that one right now, but I'm thinking next one will probably come out next month or the month after.
All right, excellent, great work. So Christine, as our representative from the Conference for Food Protection, how do you think the National Regulatory Retail Food Regulatory Program standards will evolve as a result of the RLTS?
Thank you, Alan. That's a great question. And the CFP is grateful to be a partner in the IFSS RLTS. As many have already alluded to, I foresee changes with the Retail Program Standard to trained regulatory staff as it aligns with the regulatory and laboratory training system and the National Curriculum Standard transpired through the work of the CFP Program Standards Committee. In fact, in anticipation of the NCS and that multiple course standards through the CFP Program Standards Committee, the framework for the format of the Appendix B1 curriculum for retail food safety inspection officers was changed as recommended at the 2021 CFP biennial meeting to include a table with courses and course numbers. That appendix is now updated as courses are added, updated, or moved across different learning management systems, and I can't wait to see how that appendix develops with the RLTS. I think that retail regulators will embrace a training system that includes goals related to training design and maintenance and management in their strategic plan. Having methods in place to keep training updated and current will be appreciated. I can also envision expanded compliance to Retail Program Standard 3 inspection program based on HACCP principles with the improved curriculum related to risk-based inspections, HACCP, and special processes in the NCS. With increased knowledge in these topics, some jurisdictions may evolve their programs to conduct better risk-based inspections and validation and verification of special processes. Again, thank you to the steering committee and all involved in bringing this training system to life.
And thank you, Christine. Keith is our representative from ISSC. What benefits of this new approach to training do you think it will have for molluscan shellfish regulatory programs?
Thanks, Alan. I think the shellfish programs have some unique training that is required, but many of the benefits of the new system are similar to those already talked about for other food programs. So the fact that the new training system will provide better access to training for shellfish programs, we expect it to reduce the time that it takes for new regulatory and laboratory staff to be ready to conduct independent work. But also the integrated system being part of the integrated system should help reduce redundancy and improve the efficiency, particularly for those programs that cover multiple commodities that include shellfish.
Gotcha. All right. Excellent. And then over to Casey. For grade A milk and dairy partners on the line, how do you see NCIMS working for the RLTS to address grade A milk and other dairy training?
Yeah, thanks so much, Alan. In my work in the National Curriculum Standard Project, I personally witnessed commonalities among our
I'm getting a little feedback, Casey. I'm not sure why.
I don't either. Got it. Yep. Move forward. Get me.
All right, I'll come back to you. So I actually have another question before we move on to our CDC partners. Keith, I know that you want to make sure that you keep stakeholders engaged in the conference. And so can you talk to us about how you plan to keep stakeholders in the Shellfish Cooperative Program updated about the process as we stand up the RLTS?
Well, the IFSS has a training committee, and they'll be involved in the implementation and shellfish programs. And so that committee will provide updates to the IFSS membership that have training that's required for National Shellfish Sanitation Program compliance. And for those that aren't IFSS members, we will also post information on our website about the implementation and how it affects the shellfish program.
Got you. Thank you so much. And Casey, are we back on?
We'll give it a try. How's it sound? Better?
Still echoing.
Yeah, I got a whole issue going on. Love it.
No worries.
Casey,
So,
is your volume on your computer turned all the way down?
I already set it down. I got that. It's fine. I got a double mic issue. It's the computer.
okay. All right. Thank you, Casey. Sherry, what's CDC's interest in the RLTS?
Thanks, Alan. And first, I just want to say how pleased CDC is to be invited to support FDA in this innovative and diverse partnership approach to training is pretty exciting. Gwen and I, just for everybody's information, Gwen and I represent the Division of Foodborne, Waterborne, and Environmental Diseases in the National Center for Emerging and Zoonotic Infectious Diseases. We're fairly new to the steering committee, and we look forward to engaging more in this important partnership effort. One of our interests in the RLTS is to find ways to enhance coordination and information exchange among clinical, environmental, food safety, agricultural partners, just to name a few.
Excellent. And what do you see CDC's role in the RLTS being going forward?
Well, our current thinking is that our division's role in supporting RLTS is to contribute the non-regulatory public health perspective to identify areas where we can leverage resources and expertise and bring insights and experiences from our division, and also from working with our public health officials, many on the phone today, at states, tribal, local, and territories, as well as CDC-supported centers of excellence. A key component of our division activities is capacity building. So we envision engaging with these groups and bringing their input back to the steering committee. Additionally, we see our role as, we're one part of CDC. CDC, as like FDA, is a large organization. So we do see our role as communicating and coordinating with other parts of CDC, including the National Center for Environmental Health. Thanks, Alan.
Thank you,
so
Sherry.
glad to be here today.
Thank you, and thank you. You're a very important member of the RLTS steering committee, and we appreciate our partnership with CDC. I want to ask one more question, or a few questions, to our partner over at FSIS. Hala, I'll ask you the same questions that I asked Sherry. What is FSIS's interest in the RLTS?
Okay. FSIS interest in the RLTS ties directly into the FSIS strategic plan for partnership and collaboration. The FSIS strategic plan outlined the importance of FSIS collaborations with multiple partners to improve the efficiency and effectiveness of food safety outcomes. FSIS is among the regulatory agencies that contributes toward achieving safer human food supply, and thus has vested interest in the RLTS. FSIS engages with federal, state, local, tribal, and territorial agencies. For example, FSIS provides inspection in dual jurisdiction establishment. Other regulated food product may be used in FSIS regulated product. Therefore, FSIS is an important partner in the RLTS.
Thank you so much, Hala. And besides being a member of the steering committee, how else will FSIS be involved in the RLTS?
Okay, so the RLTS strategic plan calls for the design and implementation of collaboratively administered training system to ensure a competent regulatory workforce. FSIS USDA's role in supporting RLTS is centers around that FSIS is a regulatory authority responsible for ensuring the safety of nation's food supply. And FSIS can contribute valuable experience and expertise regarding the design and implementation of training to the RLTS. FSIS USDA's role in supporting RLTS will involve sharing our knowledge and expertise surrounding our responsibility in providing training and education opportunities to employees by implementing best practice and developing innovative training module. FSIS Office of Employee Experience and Development provides employee development and training program designed to ensure public health and food safety.
Thank you so much, Helen. Thank you for your partnership as well. We're excited to have FSIS part of this.
Sure.
Before we open it up for Q&A, and I see there's a lot of questions in the Q&A, I want to give an opportunity to our partners at Eagle Hill to talk about how you can get involved. We've mentioned that there are advisory committees that really have a central role in developing the national standards for courses and other learning resource content design and delivery. So, the standards that are created are really critical to ensuring the quality and consistency of training and other learning opportunities across the RLTS, regardless of who's delivering that training. And so it's really important. Eagle Hill will be a key partner in facilitating meetings with these advisory committees to solicit feedback from them as we finalize these standards by June. So Lori, can you talk more about how that will work and the qualifications of the committee members and the workload and all that good stuff? How can folks volunteer?
Of course, Alan, happy to. And thank you, Natalie, for pulling up our couple of slides we have to describe this a little bit. So as previously mentioned, we are getting groups together to review and validate national standards for learning resources coming into this training system. This will include 5 advisory committees covering National Curriculum Standards or NCS maintenance, along with content, design, delivery, and alignment. We have drafts of these standards ready, so we will not be starting from square one on any of these committees, which is great news for you all. So starting with the NCS Maintenance Committee, the aim of this group will be to review and clear draft standards, policies, and procedures to keep the NCS up to date. As you've heard so far, this curriculum will be the backbone of the RLTS, and this committee will create the processes and policies to ensure that the NCS stay relevant. For that reason, it would be helpful to have members who have human and animal food technical expertise, as you can see below in the qualifications for that particular group. I will now pass it on to my colleague, Sally Mae, to review the remaining committees and their qualifications.
Thanks, Lori. So next up, we have the Content Committee, which will review and clear policies for learning resource content, alternative ways to demonstrate competency, and determine prerequisite determinations. Next is the Design Committee, which will determine the design standards for the RLTS resources and keep them up to date, aligned with best practices. The Delivery Committee will draft and clear delivery standards for resources in the RLTS, including how to determine the best modalities for resources based on learning objectives. And finally, we have the Alignment Committee, which will review and clear standards, policies, and procedures to determine the alignment of courses and credentials with the NCS. And so for the content, design, delivery, and alignment committees, we're looking for members with experience in regulatory and laboratory training fields, and those with experience in adult learning, instructional development and design, or delivery. And as you can see, these committees will be essential in maintaining the training system and ensuring that the quality of courses remains the gold standard throughout the country. With your help, these committees will collaborate to bring their training expertise and lessons learned from the field to strengthen this training system and meet the needs of regulators and laboratorians across the nation. And now I'll pass it back to Lori so she can go over next steps and how you can get involved.
Thanks, Sally Mae. And Natalie, you can go on to the next slide. Thank you. So what can you all do now? Well, hopefully we piqued some of your interest in these committees, and we are very excited to work with you all. We are expecting the workload to be about 3 to 5 hours a month from now until June as we work to finalize the standards. So starting to hit the ground running a little bit, and then it'll ease off a bit after June with some less frequent review meetings, possibly once a quarter, depending on what the groups decide. We will share a form link in the chat for you to share your interest. Just click on the volunteer button on the website, and please complete that form by April 15th. Thank you all so much, and we are looking forward to working with you.
Thank you, Lori and Salome. You all have been an amazing partner through this process, and it's really exciting to hear that there's draft standards already created. And if I were going to sign up for something, it'd be those work groups, because there's drafts that I can, read and shoot holes at. So that's awesome. So thank you. And I know that the work will be efficient because you all are leading those efforts to review those standards. So thank you so much. So now's the time for the Q&A session with the RLTS Steering Committee. We welcome any and all questions or comments that you have, and I know that some of you have been typing your questions in the Q&A feature at the bottom of the screen already. Continue to do that. Also, we urge you to feel free to ask your questions out loud. To ask your questions out loud at the bottom of your Zoom window on the menu bar, look for the option to raise your hand. And once you've clicked it, you'll be placed in a queue in the order that your hand was raised. When I call on you, or Natalie is also going to help me, so if one of us call on you, you'll see a pop-up window asking you to unmute. And we then click unmute and you'll be heard. Please identify yourself by name and the organization. And if you have a specific person in mind on the panel to ask your question, please let us know. Otherwise, we'll direct your question to the members of the steering committee that we feel best equipped to answer your questions. And we'll take as many questions as we have time for. And then we'll provide a contact information where you can send additional questions after the completion of today's call. So with that, do we have a question, Natalie?
Yep, I will start with the first question that we received from John Sproul. He mentioned, will SLTT regulatory professionals with disabilities, example, hearing impaired, have access to these future trainings and informational resources like this session, such as via live ASL sign language interpretation? P.S. The closed caption CC live transcript for this meeting is helpful and a great start in addressing disability access.
So that sounds like a great question for IFPTI, I think. Thank you, John, for that question.
Okay, great. Well, I can maybe tackle that, Alan. So yeah, actually, I'm glad you asked that question. We really do need to look and see where that fits in with our committees, like the that Salome just went over. So I think we're going to need our committees to see where that fits. Obviously, anything done by the federal government, has to meet 508 compliance. So I'm sure FDA will continue to make sure things are produced under 508 compliance. If we do go to this open marketplace, that's interesting because some providers may not have to meet 508 compliance. And so that might, on one hand, open the door to, innovative types of resources, but on the other, you're right, it could have an impact on Americans with Disabilities Act. And so we're going to have to look for that closely and how we're going to address that at the National Coordination Center, but I think starting perhaps with our committees.
Great question. Great question. Thank you, Jerry. And I know we have addressed the need to make sure that training is appropriate for Americans with disabilities in the strategic plan. And we'll, as Jerry said, we need to build that in as we stand up the RLTS. So thank you for that question, John. Do we have another question, Natalie?
Yep, looks like we have one from Mary Cross. With IFPTI as a key partner, will Absorb remain in use as a learning management system, or will there be changes expected? And Lonnie, I see you have your hand raised. Is that to answer this one?
No, Natalie, I wanted to comment on the previous one. Got in a little late there. I'm sorry. Please go ahead with this question, and then I'll get back to it.
Okay, no problem at all.
Okay.
Maybe for a question for Jerry?
Yep, sure. Yeah, I think you're referring to the fact that IFPTI currently obviously has a learning management system that's in place. So one of the things, if you look at the implementation plan, it calls for, at some point when the National Coordination Center is stood up, that it operate a kind of a national learning management system. And so that is going to be looked at as that is implemented, as the National Coordination Center is implemented. The first thing that has to happen is, there's going to be a business plan put together. And if you look at implementation, the steering committee will be looking at standing up that National Coordination Center over the next year or so. And as Alan mentioned, it might not be till 2025 that it's actually fully stood up. But certainly that's in the plan, is to have that National Coordination Center have some kind of a learning management system that can capture all the records for this whole system. So that's kind of a future. We'll see what the future holds, I guess, is the answer.
Excellent. Thank you, Jerry. And then Lonnie, you wanted to add on the last question about the last question that we had.
Right, regarding accessibility.
Thank you.
One of the things that we need to make sure that happens with folks is we need to make sure that if somebody needs access to accessibility of any sort or kind, that we know before the course happens. In that manner, we can prepare for it and get you the items that you need in order to be able to take the course effectively. And many times some of these items don't, just appear immediately. We have to work on them and get them ready for you. So if you could let us know before you take the course, any type of course that you will need some sort of accessibility care, we're more than happy to work on that for you before you get to the course.
Thank you, Lonnie. Do we have any live questions, Gideon?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Natalie, any other questions in the chat?
We do have a few more. I see another question for Jerry. Are the NCS competencies approved or otherwise finalized, or will they possibly change with this RLTS rollout?
Mm-hmm. Well, I see the question was asked probably before you saw Salome and Lori's chart on the committees, but certainly that's going to be the role for the maintenance committee. The NCS maintenance committee will look at, blessing the competencies and any changes that are made or proposals to change competencies or add things to the framework. That will go through those standards that that committee comes up with.
Thank you, Jerry. And just to add to that, all of these standards that we mentioned, these standards and policies for course content, design, delivery, even the validated NCS frameworks will ultimately go to this steering committee for final clearance. So they'll start kind of in the advisory committees, get the committees will, look at them, review them, make them better, and then they'll go to the steering committee for final clearance. All right. Back to you, Natalie. What other question do we have?
Thanks, Alan. I see we are getting close to the end of our time here, so I think maybe we have time for one more question. This one is from Nicole Leitz. How do you think the RLTS will be applied for dietary supplement manufacturing and laboratory process?
I think that's a great question for Craig, who's the closest to the NCS.
Yeah, thank you, Alan. So actually, dietary supplements is on the human and animal food framework. And I just learned that we just finished those competencies and behavioral anchors. And so we'll be looking for people to validate those.
Excellent. Maybe one more, Natalie?
Sure thing. Let's see what we have here. And thank you again, everyone, for your questions. We've got a great list here. I see we have one from Sammy Berg. Will the creation of training standards be used to validate an inspector's or organization's competency, such as volume retail standards, or is the plan to have these become minimum job requirements or something else?
Great question. Is a member of a panel want to take that? Steve, maybe?
Thanks, Alan. I was just thinking that was a tough question. So I think the answer is yes, this really does set the competency standards that become part of the voluntary retail program standards and the minimum job requirements. So imagine a lot of those things that you demonstrate during standardization, a lot of that is the training that you are actually talking about here, that you demonstrate your ability through those competencies. And so I think, yes, very highly connected, all comes together at this point, and we're getting very close to that.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve, for taking that question on the fly. Great question. All right, so Natalie, can you take us home?
Will do. So we just want to thank all of our callers for joining us on today's SLTT Regulatory and Laboratory Stakeholders Conference Call. We hope that you found it helpful and informative. I also want to thank Deputy Commissioner Jones and the members of the steering committee for their unwavering support of the RLTS and for participating in today's call. If you have any questions that you were not able to ask during today's conference call, or any questions or comments regarding the stakeholder conference call or the RLTS, we encourage you to visit the new RLTS website at fda.gov/IFSS/RLTS. Here you will find the RLTS strategic plan, implementation plan, proposed governance structure, infographics, frequently asked questions, and a promotional video and quotes featuring some of the RLTS steering committee members you heard from today. There's also information on how to volunteer to validate NCS competencies or serve on advisory committees. Lastly, at the bottom of the page, there's a link to send additional questions directly to the RLTS project team. Today's call was recorded and a replay of the call will be available. We will send out a message within 48 hours of completion of the call that will contain a link to the replay of the call, as well as the contact information where you can send follow-up questions and comments. This will conclude today's stakeholder conference call, and thanks again for joining us. You may disconnect at this time.